Good morning. This presentation is over research on the stages of group development. This is for week 4 of the alcohol and drug addiction class with the instructor of Dr. Paulin. So for this presentation, the type of group that will be focused is a group of adult women who have been victims of a domestic violence situation or a domestic violence occurrence. This group is also in women that are in an inpatient facility due to substance abuse being used to either numb or medicate the feelings of guilt and shame that they have had, the feeling of a failure and unworthiness because the relationships have been unsuccessful and unhealthy. This group, the intentions for this group is to provide support for each other because all of them will be victims or have been victims. So the support there in relation to the domestic violence, there will all of the women will be co-occurring. So as well as substance use and mental health. There will also be some trauma that they will all be suffering from due to the impact that's been in their lives. So they will support each other. They will build skills. And then they will begin to practice and develop healthy relationships so that when the group ends, they will be able to go and use those skills and develop those healthy relationships and be able to gain the feeling of worthiness that because they are worthy and not feel like a failure. They will all have been committed to the desire to change. So they will be in the contemplation stage of change. They will be working on healthy relationships in their individual counseling as well as through the support group. There will be encouragement to change within themselves and within the development of relationships. So beginning with the initial stage of the group development, there are the initial stage, the transition stage, the working stage, and the termination stage. So we'll start with the initial stage. In the initial stage, the counseling skill that will be present is the attending skill, which in our textbook, it's on page 268, talks about how attending is being present and in the present, and how it helps clients get to know each other through first impression. So the attending skill will be used. The intervention for that first skill is to allow the counselor or the therapist or the group leader to discuss and demonstrate the acceptance by showing interest in what the client is saying, showing interest in what the group is saying, And that interest can be shown through eye contact and open body posture. The second skill comes from the textbook as well, and it's the listening skills, where the counselor is actively listening. There are several types of listening, but actively listening is being there, being present. So you're still using those attending skills, the open communication, the open body posture, the eye contact. The intervention for the listening skill is so that the therapist can encourage the empowerment within the client to obtain the ability to advocate for themselves and to also find their own identity, and help them recognize or identify their identity as they are introducing themselves and gaining a relationship and a connection to the group. The third skill is the forming. When it comes to group development, you have a preforming, forming, storming, norming, and adjourning stages. And so this would be coming from the idea of the forming, which comes from a research that I did with the effects and the context of timing the structured interventions on group process from the Journal of Counseling and Psychology. In that it talked about how during the forming skills, the clients build intimacy within the group, and that it's important for a group to be successful to build that connection, belonging. Again, those all come from the idea of the motivational interviewing, which also comes from Jung in the motivational interviewing workbook. But you want to develop that intimacy within the group. You want to develop that connection, that belonging. The demonstration of paraphrasing, which comes also under the forming stage, is you want to paraphrase. The therapist wants to paraphrase what she believes the client is saying, or what he believes the client is saying, so that they can give the feedback to continue to encourage and identify within the client what they have as a connection and who they are. You also want to help them advocate for themselves and what they need as they go through this stage. By doing that, they're promoting the intimacy. The leader, the therapist, the counselor promotes the intimacy in the demonstration of caring, respectful, and just being genuine. And all of those helps increase positive expression. And then you're able to give back what is heard and what is being accepted by others through accepting and instilling the hope in the clients. So moving to the transition stage. Transition stage is the skill of process and reflection of feelings, so that the clients can continue to build trust and feel there is a control of the group. When they feel that through personal experience, When the group has some control or is centered about or around their desires, then the ability to build trust within the group is easier to see or be built. Again, this is part of that storming process. So the transition stage moves from the forming to storming. Through this first intervention, the counselor continues to build acceptance and respect, build trust, continues to engage in the intimacy among the group members. The second skill of the transition stage is self-disclosure. Self-disclosure is where the therapist is disclosing pertinent things that will help each client of the group continue to build that connection and belonging, that spirituality of towards the group. When I say spirituality, I'm thinking of a connection and a belonging, not your religious aspect of that. So through that self-disclosure, they're going to increase the client to want to have a ability to self-report change. This also is the idea of the therapist, the leader, the counselor, using it as using self-disclosure as a purpose to instill hope, and at the same time of being respectful and accepting of others in the group. The thing with the self-disclosure is you want to make sure it's for the good and not going to hurt the group or the individual in the group. Moving to the third skill in the transition stage is the motivational interviewing to begin addressing conflicts that arise through the process of the group building. Again, that comes from the textbook, and the intervention behind the motivational interviewing is for the group to begin the process of coming up with goals that they want to focus on, and then using the conflict resolution, using the negotiation skills that are within motivational interviewing, where they can address conflicts that come up within the group, where they can agree, yes, we all have this goal, but being able to name that goal and being able to agree. That is going to be a pivotal point for the group to begin the work together. That's according to Young in the motivational interviewing, because that's important that they agree, yes, these are the things that is in relation, and these are the goals we want to focus on. Which then moves us to the working stage. The working stage is where the group begins doing the skill of probing. Probing is going to continue the group gaining depth within the development of healthy relationship building. It's they're going to probe, the counselor's going to probe, or the leader's going to probe, but probing in this aspect will be by using the motivational interviewing skills and defining what solutions can be given in that look of what a healthy relationship looks like, what skills do they need. Again, by doing this process and the open communication and being able to use the conflict resolution skills, they are also demonstrating those skills that are going to develop a healthy relationship. So after they, during the probing, of course, there's going to be some confrontation. So our second skill in the working is the confrontation. Confrontation and developing healthy relations in regards to developing a healthy relationship, skill building. The intervention of this allows the counselor to work as a group to measure the goals and the solutions that they come up with, so that they can begin practicing and using those skills and those solutions to develop a healthy relationship. Of course, this is probably the kind of the longest process of the stages of group, and then you'll move into the final stage or the transition stage. Through the final stage, the skill of paraphrasing the solutions would be used to develop a strong work group. This allows the group to continue processing those solutions, continue practicing those solutions through demonstration. This also allows the counselor to provide feedback, as well as the clients seeking feedback from the others in the group. The second skill of the final stage is the summarizing. This is what the solutions, where it puts the solutions together. It allows each client to go through and use the skills and summarize how they're going to use the skills, how they've been using the skills when it comes to their interaction within the group. So this is where you'll really see some group work being done. This intervention allows the counselors to give feedback and assist in finding a conclusion to the work that the group has done. It also encourages the group to continue finding those solutions. And it just gives them the ability to say goodbye, to find that closure. Because even though that the group is ending, it doesn't mean that they have to stay and not continue moving forward. So moving forward is a big part of the final stage or the transition stage. Being able to have that closure is a big part of the final stage of group work, even when it comes down to on the individual level within the group members and the leader. I hope that you now kind of understand, or now you can understand that these women will be able to leave the group and have the skills and the knowledge to develop healthy relationships. Within that, they're going to learn the power and control wheel. They're going to be able to see the cycle, and just have a healthier, successful life, and not feel like a failure, and feel like they are worthy of those interactions, those belongings, those memberships. Thank you. Until next time.